Thank you so much. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation to represent IQVIA in this forum. We are very excited about the standards, and since the beginning of our discussions with PEDRI, it was a very good fit for us because of the story, kind of what I want to tell you about this. So, for you to understand how we work in IQVIA and who IQVIA is, and this is just, in this forum, is just a representation of industry, how we could implement the standards and how we can work better in public involvement for data research. So for you to understand what IQVIA is, it's a big company. We are more than 90,000 people around the world doing research. We call ourselves a human data company. We are a data research company, and everything we do is by generating data from people, from individuals, or accessing data that has been generated from individuals, studying that data or analyzing that data for research purposes, and hopefully, most of the times, giving back to the community, giving back results in a way that it could be for pharmaceutical companies, developing new technologies, governments, improving pathways in their healthcare systems, NGOs, understanding more about what community needs, etc. So to understand a little bit the story of IQVIA, we are two companies that merged around 2016. One big CRO, which is a clinical research organization, basically the right-hand arm of many pharmaceutical companies developing new technologies. It merged with another company called IMS, which, or the main core of that business was to acquire data sets to understand drug utilization in hospitals all around the world. So that merged together, and in a way, suddenly we have the view of what was happening with the patient from the clinical trial, after the clinical trial, and hopefully in their real life, right? And then also amplify that of what happened in the real life. So 4 years ago, the company realized of the benefits of public and patient involvement in research and data research. Some of the benefits is that we have better data that can be collected, real-world data. We have more inclusion and access to clinical trials, so we can recruit better for clinical trials. And also we can generate more data points to change global health systems or national healthcare systems. In a way, the way that we work, that happens 4 years ago, so they decided from the very high levels to implement this center of excellence in the company, which is where I work. And the Center of Excellence is called Patient Involvement, Patient Engagement and Patient Advocacy Center of Excellence. We're a unit in the company. We're a non-commercial unit, so we don't have any business to sell, but our main customer are those 90,000 researchers in the company, and also we kind of the team that bridges between the public, the organizations of the public, and the research that we do for companies, governments, etc. So the easiest way of doing this, how we channel this, is through patient organizations, already organized communities, and we see a lot of benefit on it. So we share similar goals for research, for data research, is the first thing that we say to patient organizations to understand, because sometimes the public doesn't understand the possibilities and the power that they have with their own data. So our main task is to educate them and to make sure that they know and they understand the power that they have with the data of their communities. So the patient voice is super important. the capacity building within their communities on how to interpret the data, how to collaborate with AI initiatives or other type of initiatives and research initiatives. Sustainable funding, so how they can actually generate data themselves to sustain the same data generation that they're going to use for research to impact their communities, and how they can use that to influence. So that became basically two main work streams in the company, well, for the team. One is the patient voice for research, and the other one is data strategies for patients and patient organizations and the public. I'm going to go really quick on community voice for research because we already discussed a lot about that. And PEDRI standards are going to come really handy to us because first we were just trying to figure out how to implement what is important for the patient through the whole drug development process, right? From drug discovery to commercialization. Honestly, we have case studies in which companies make these massive investments, then they try to commercialize this, and then the drug doesn't take off in the market. And when they ask the patient, is because the drug actually doesn't fit the needs of the patient, or it doesn't fit what the patient really is looking for in a therapy for their own condition. So that is important. That's why it's important to listen since the beginning and implement that feedback that the patient gives you. So that is patient voice into research. That's how we try to implement from different methods, but and we take for example the PEDRI standards as one of them. And then the other one is how we co-develop data strategies for the public. So the public is not that we are all here doing our data initiatives and the public is there giving data or donating data, but it's like how we can work together to do that. So IQVIA has different processes, but we generate a specific process to work with the patient organizations. And is basically how we listen and how we understand what they need, and we call these the data foundations for, imagine a specific condition, let's say prostate cancer, how we understand what the patient of prostate cancer needs, then how we can help them with the data to do data-driven advocacy and amplify the voice of the patient into that driven advocacy program, and then how that can be actionable into specific changes for the healthcare system to actually give a feedback for the patient. So that's what we've been doing for the past 3 years. We've been helping a lot of patient organizations to do that. Meaningful collaborations for us, for example, could look like, and if you see, like, the first 2 points are around patient voice, the second 2 points are around data and real-world evidence, is we co-designed, we map research pathways together with patients, listening to patients, listening to specific communities within the patient community or within specific conditions. Research engagement and awareness is we jointly develop engagement strategies with the community to make sure that when we launch a clinical trial or when we launch any study, the rates of success are going to be better than if we don't. Then for data strategies, we for example, we help patient organizations to understand what is the data out there, how they can read that data, how they can use that data, translate that data to their patients, and how they can convert that data into policy recommendations, for example, that will actually bring change for them. So with that, I also have some examples. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time, but I will be really happy to talk to any of you. We work with many charities trying to understand the voice of the patient, trying to understand their needs. This is an example of obesity, where Thanks to patient voice, for example, thanks to listening to patients and communities, we were able to meet the requirements of a specific client for recruitment on specific ethnic communities. This is how translation, for example, what we were talking about, not for a specific community, but for prostate cancer patients in general, how they can read, how we can translate the feedback that they give us scientifically, how they can read them in their own terms and how they can understand that. So that's something that we did with them. We work with the Brain Tumor Charity also to understand how data is being collected and how they can use that data to advocate for better standards of data collection in the country and devolved nations. So actually it can have impact to the patient, because there's no point of just having the data there or bad data that is being collected, right? We help charities also to build longitudinal data sets that are addressing gaps in data that nobody asks or nobody understands or nobody has addressed before, like patient voice, patient insights, and that brings a lot of value into the whole picture of data research. So thank you very much for your attention, and yeah, please just come to me and ask any questions. Thank you.